What happens when two powerhouse women in Hollywood clash over creative integrity and the price of fame? The tension inside Studio 6B was so thick you could cut it with a knife as Kelly Reilly, the fierce star of Yellowstone, sat across from Drew Barrymore for what was meant to be a lighthearted promotional interview. But within minutes, the cheerful atmosphere turned into one of the most explosive confrontations daytime television had ever witnessed. The morning had begun like any other at the Drew Barrymore Show. Kelly arrived early, trailed by her publicist, who quietly reminded her to stay on message, promote the new season, and keep things positive. The makeup team worked their magic while Kelly sipped her coffee, her expression distant. She had done countless press tours before, but something about this one felt different. The questions lately had been getting more invasive, less about her craft and more about her personal life. Moments later, Drew burst into the green room with her usual sunshine energy, her smile wide and infectious. "Kelly, oh my gosh, I am such a huge fan. Yellowstone has completely taken over my Sundays in that last season finale. I literally screamed at my TV." Kelly smiled politely, though those who knew her well might have noticed the tension in her eyes. "Thank you, Drew," she said evenly. "That means a lot coming from you." Drew clapped her hands together. "Are you ready for this? I have some really fun questions planned. Nothing too serious, I promise, just girl talk." Her enthusiasm was genuine, but something in her tone made Kelly's publicist shift uneasily. When they walked onto the set, the studio audience erupted in applause. Drew waved energetically while Kelly offered a more reserved nod. The cameras rolled, the theme music swelled, and Drew launched into her introduction with practiced ease. "Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm absolutely thrilled to have with me today one of the most talented actresses working right now. She's fierce, she's British, and she plays the unforgettable Beth Dutton on the hit series Yellowstone. Please give a warm welcome to Kelly Reilly." The crowd cheered as Kelly settled into the plush interview chair, crossing her legs and maintaining her poised composure. Drew leaned in with that intimate warmth that had made her show so popular. "Kelly, first of all, you look absolutely stunning. That jacket is incredible. Now I have to ask because everyone wants to know. What's it like playing such an intense, complicated character like Beth?" Kelly's reply was smooth and thoughtful. She's a force of nature, really. Someone who's been shaped by trauma, but refuses to let it define her weakness. She fights for what she believes in, even when it costs her everything. I think that resonates with a lot of people. Drew nodded eagerly. She certainly does fight. And speaking of fighting, there have been some rumors about tension on set. Can you tell us what it's really like working with Kevin Costner and the rest of the cast? Kelly's polite smile didn't waver, but her posture stiffened slightly. "The cast is wonderful," she replied. "We're like a family, which is essential when you're telling stories about family. Kevin brings such gravitas to John Dutton, and working alongside him has been one of the highlights of my career." "That's so beautiful," Drew said. "Family is everything, isn't it?" And speaking of family, her tone shifted ever so slightly, a knowing gleam in her eye. "I know our viewers are dying to know about your personal life. You're so private, which I totally respect, but can you give us just a little peek behind the curtain? What's Kelly Reilly like when she's not being the badass Beth Dutton?" The question hung in the air a little too long. Kelly's fingers tightened around the arm of her chair before she answered, her voice calm but firm. "I prefer to keep my private life private. Drew, I think the work should speak for itself." Of course, Drew replied quickly, though she pressed on with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "But you know, our audience feels like they know you through Beth. They're invested in you as a person. Surely you can share something? Are you dating anyone? Any wedding bells in the future?" From the wings, Kelly's publicist took a subtle but noticeable step forward. This wasn't what they had agreed to. The conversation was supposed to stay focused on the show, her craft, maybe a few lighthearted behind-the-scenes moments. But now, with millions watching, it was clear that the interview had just crossed an invisible line and Kelly Reilly wasn't about to let it slide. It wasn't Kelly's romantic life that she wanted to discuss, a topic she had always kept fiercely private and off-limits. "I understand the curiosity," Kelly said evenly, though her voice carried a cooler edge now. "But I believe actors do their best work when they maintain some mystery. When audiences see me, I want them to see Beth Dutton, not tabloid headlines about my personal relationships." Drew laughed, but the sound came out slightly forced. "Oh, come on. Mystery is great for the characters, but we're all friends here. The audience loves getting to know the real person behind the role. It makes them feel connected. Connected to what exactly? Kelly's response came sharper than she intended, slicing through the air. The studio fell into an uneasy silence. Drew blinked, clearly not expecting pushback. Well, to your journey, your story. Kelly's tone hardened. My story is my work. It's in the roles I choose, the characters I bring to life. That's what I'm here to share with people. The tension between them was now palpable. Drew quickly glanced at her cue cards, forcing a too bright smile. Okay, I hear you. Let's talk about the work then. But her next question only poured fuel on the fire. There's been some speculation about your contract negotiations for the next season of Yellowstone. Sources say there might be some drama behind the scenes with the network. Care to comment? Kelly's eyes flashed. Her jaw tightened. Sources? What sources would those be, Drew? Oh, just industry talk, Drew replied, trying to sound casual. Nothing concrete. But our viewers are concerned about their favorite characters. They want to know if Beth will be back. Industry talk, Kelly repeated slowly, her voice dripping with controlled irritation. You mean gossip? Drew's smile wavered. I mean legitimate reporting from entertainment journalists who cover the industry. Kelly leaned forward slightly. Entertainment journalists? You mean the same ones who fabricate stories about my personal life? The ones who twist normal contract negotiations which happen in every business into manufactured drama for clicks and views? The studio audience was completely silent now. Even the camera crew seemed to sense the shift in the air. Behind the cameras, Drew's producer was making frantic hand gestures, but it was unclear whether they wanted her to back down or push through. Kelly, I think maybe we're getting a little off track here, Drew said finally, her voice adopting a faintly defensive tone. I'm just trying to give the audience what they want to hear. Kelly's gaze locked on hers. And what is it you think they want to hear exactly? The question landed like a challenge. Drew shifted in her chair, her signature warmth replaced by unease. They want to know the real you, Kelly. They want authenticity. They want to connect with someone genuine, not just a polished media persona. Kelly leaned back, calm but cutting. Authenticity. That's an interesting word coming from someone who built a career on carefully curated vulnerability. Tell me, Drew, when you share your personal struggles on this show, when you cry about your divorces or your childhood trauma, is that authenticity? Or is that performance? The studio went dead silent. Drew's practiced smile vanished completely, replaced by something raw and startled. For the first time in the interview, she seemed genuinely thrown off balance. I share my experiences because I think it helps people feel less alone in their struggles, she managed. Or because it gets ratings. Kelly replied coolly, her words deliberate and sharp. Because audiences love to watch someone break down, it makes them feel superior, or grateful that their lives aren't quite as messy. Don't mistake exploitation for connection. From the wings, Drew's producer was now frantically signaling, but both women were locked in the moment, oblivious to everything else. Drew's cheeks flushed a deeper red, and when she spoke again, her tone had lost all its television polish. That's really unfair, Kelly. I share my story because I've been through difficult things, and I know other people have too. It's called being human. Kelly didn't flinch. Being human doesn't require performing your pain for strangers, she shot back. And it certainly doesn't require demanding that others do the same. You're not entitled to my personal life just because you've made yours public. I'm not demanding anything, Drew said, her voice rising slightly now. I'm trying to have a conversation. This is a talk show, Kelly. Kelly leaned forward, her expression unreadable. Then maybe we should start talking instead of performing. People come on shows to talk about their work, their craft, their stories, their art. Not about who they're sleeping with, what designer they wore to the grocery store, or whether they plan to have children. That's not conversation, Drew, Kelly said, her tone sharp and controlled. That's gossip disguised as intimacy. The audience was riveted now, realizing this had gone far beyond a tense interview. It was a raw philosophical clash between two powerful women, one defending privacy, the other defending transparency, and neither was backing down. Drew inhaled deeply, struggling to steady her composure. Look, I understand wanting privacy, I really do, she began carefully. But you chose to be in the public eye. You chose to be on a massively popular television show, With that comes certain expectations from the audience. Expectations? Kelly repeated, and there was a dangerous calm in her voice. So because I'm good at my job, because I chose acting as a career, I owe strangers access to my private thoughts and relationships? That's your argument? It's not about owing anyone anything, Drew said, her confidence slipping. It's about giving people something real to hold on to in a world that can feel disconnected. Kelly laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to know what's real, Drew? What's real is that I go to work every day and pour everything I have into creating a character people find compelling. What's real is that I study, I prepare, I collaborate, I tell stories that matter. That's reality. The craft is real, not the person doing it. But people want to know about the person, Drew insisted. They want to understand how you bring such depth to Beth Dutton. They want to know what experiences you draw from. They want to know because you've trained them to want to know, Kelly fired back. You've created this culture where actors' private lives are fair game, where we're expected to sell our privacy along with our talent. And when someone refuses, suddenly they're difficult or cold or not giving the audience what they deserve. Drew looked shaken now, torn between defending her show and salvaging her dignity. I think you're being a little unfair to my audience, she said softly. They're not vultures. They care about the shows they watch and the actors they admire. Caring about the show and demanding access to my bedroom are two very different things, Kelly snapped. And the fact that you can't see the difference is exactly the problem. Nobody's demanding access to your bedroom, Drew protested, aren't they? Kelly shot back. Asking about my dating life, my relationship status, whether I want children, what I eat, how I look. Those questions aren't about my work, Drew. They're about consuming me. Turning my existence into entertainment. The interview had completely derailed. What began as a promotional chat had evolved into a fierce debate about fame, privacy, and the moral boundaries of modern media. Drew's trademark charm had evaporated. Her gentle redirections no longer worked because Kelly wasn't playing the game. I think you're being a little paranoid, Drew said, and instantly regretted it. The air in the studio seemed to freeze. Kelly's eyes darkened as she went utterly still. Paranoid, she repeated quietly. Because I want to maintain boundaries between my work and my life? I didn't mean it like that, Drew stammered. I just meant, maybe you're overthinking it. People ask personal questions because they're interested, not because they have some sinister agenda. Not sinister, Kelly agreed coldly. Just entitled. They believe that because they buy a ticket or stream a show, they own a piece of the person they're watching, and you enable it, Drew. Shows like this enable it, turning personal information into currency, forcing us to trade privacy for promotion. Drew looked flustered. That's not fair. I try to create a safe space where people can share what they're comfortable sharing. By asking the same invasive questions everyone else asks? By pushing when someone says no? By calling them paranoid when they set boundaries? Kelly's tone sharpened with every word. This doesn't feel safe to me, Drew. The room was dead silent. The audience watched with morbid fascination, as though witnessing something they were never meant to see. The producer gestured wildly from off camera, but the two women were locked in. I think we should maybe take a commercial break, Drew said weakly. No, Kelly replied firmly. Let's finish this. You wanted authenticity, right? You wanted the real me? Well, here I am. The real me thinks this format is toxic. The real me thinks turning personal trauma into entertainment is grotesque. The real me believes artists should be judged by their art, not by how much they're willing to bleed for ratings. Drew, cornered but still clinging to control, asked, Then why did you agree to come on the show? It was the wrong question. Kelly's eyes flashed. I came because my publicist said we'd be talking about my work. Because I believed, foolishly, that you cared about storytelling, not gossip. Kelly, I do care about your craft, Drew insisted. That's why I asked about how you bring depth to Beth Dutton. No, Kelly cut in. You asked me to expose my private life so you could package it as emotional insight. That's not connection, Drew, that's content. The tension was unbearable. Drew's hands trembled as she gripped her cards. I think there's been a misunderstanding, she murmured. Has there? Kelly asked, her tone almost analytical. Because from where I'm sitting, this is exactly what I expected. Another interview where the work takes a back seat to the person, where boundaries are obstacles to overcome instead of limits to respect. That's not what this is, Drew protested, but the conviction was gone, isn't it? Kelly leaned forward. Tell me, what did you hope to gain by asking about my dating life? What artistic insight did you think that would offer? Drew opened her mouth, then closed it again. There was no answer. You asked because it's the formula, Kelly continued, her tone quiet but cutting. 5 minutes on the work, 20 on the personal, maybe some tears if you're lucky. That's not fair, Drew said softly, but even she didn't sound convinced. Fair? Kelly's voice finally rose. Fair would be respecting when someone says no. Fair would be focusing on the work I came here to promote. Fair would be recognizing that actors are human beings, not products to be consumed. The audience was completely still, transfixed. This wasn't a PR stunt. This was a reckoning. Kelly, you're misreading my intentions, Drew said, desperate now. I genuinely care about you as a person. Kelly rose from her chair, moving slowly but with purpose. The camera operators scrambled to adjust. You don't know me as a person, Drew, she said quietly. You know me as a celebrity, a version of me designed for public consumption. And that's all you're entitled to. Kelly, please sit down, Drew said, panic creeping into her voice. We already talked, Kelly replied calmly. And we disagree, fundamentally. You think fame means owing strangers access to your life. I think it means doing good work and being paid for it. Those are incompatible beliefs. Drew stood now too, trying to regain control. If we just take a step back, we can find common ground. Kelly smiled, but it wasn't kind. Common ground? Sure, we both work in entertainment. The difference is I want to entertain through my performances, and you want to entertain through my personal life. I'm not interested in being that kind of entertainment. The studio was so silent you could hear the cameras hum. Kelly picked up her purse, a simple motion that somehow felt monumental. Where are you going? Drew asked, though the answer was obvious. I'm leaving, Kelly said simply. This conversation is over. Kelly, you can't just walk off my show, Drew pleaded. We have a contract. We have obligations. Kelly turned back, her gaze steady. Obligations? Like the obligation to answer invasive questions, to perform vulnerability for strangers, to sell my privacy for publicity? Like the obligation to be professional, Drew snapped, her patience cracking. Kelly actually laughed. Professional? Is it professional to ignore boundaries? To call someone paranoid for wanting privacy? You apologized, Drew, but you didn't stop. That's not professional. That's predatory. The word landed like a bomb. Drew recoiled, speechless. What do you call it, Kelly continued evenly, when someone keeps pushing after being told no? When they make someone uncomfortable and then blame them for it? Drew said nothing. Kelly gathered her things calmly. No anger, no theatrics, just finality. This is a mistake, Drew said quietly. People will think you're difficult to work with. Kelly paused at the edge of the set and looked back one last time. Let them think that. I'd rather be called difficult than sell my soul for approval. I'd rather be thought of as mysterious than be consumed by public opinion. And I'd rather walk away with my dignity intact than stay and betray what I believe in. With that, Kelly Reilly walked off the Drew Barrymore Show, leaving behind a stunned audience, a shaken host, and footage that would go down as one of the most brutally honest confrontations about fame and privacy ever aired on television.